How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael S.K., and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 2. God damn, are we really moving in an interesting direction here. It's almost fascinating how quick we can move away from the slice of life stuff to the, oh my god, I think we're going to die sort of stuff. And it has been seeming more and more apparent in this chapter compared to the last. It's really fascinating. So yeah, Oyashiro-sama killed 2 people, and by Oyashiro-sama, I mean his quote-unquote curse, and by that I mean people. So that means that 2 people have to disappear, right? If 2 people are gonna die instead of 1, and there's always that sacrifice to make up for it, then there has to be 2 sacrifices, right? That's sort of what's being thought of right now, and it's kind of creepy because the suspect, or the person that you'd think that would be disappearing, is our main character Keiichi, and of course Shion, because of their involvement, you know, sneaking into that shack. There was no way I'd be able to sleep. When she hung up the phone like that, I realized for the first time what kind of situation I was in, as well as who the only ally who would support me was. I waited with bated breath for Shion to calm down and call me back. What would I do if the phone rang while I was sound asleep? No matter how long I waited, however, it never rang. Exhausted, whenever my mind started to wander, I would jolt awake as though I heard the phone ring. In the end, I brought the cordless phone with me into my futon and went to sleep with it in my arms. Though it still didn't amount to anything. Morning came, and by that time, I was pretty sure she wasn't calling back. That was when a fierce drowsiness assailed me. We really need it, though. I slapped myself in the face a few times. Then I went to the washroom and washed my face, which was something I usually didn't do. That wasn't enough either, so I brushed my teeth. After that, I was finally wide awake. When Mom saw how strange I was acting, her eyes went wide. Well, yeah. I mean, we tend to always go to school. That was weird.
Keiichi-kun, なんだか今日も調子悪そう。やっぱり風邪かな。
風邪じゃなくて寝不足なんだ。寝ぼけてわけのわかんないことを言い出したらフォローよろしくな。
Keiichi-kun、寝ぼけたらどんなこと喋り出すのかな。ちょっと楽しみかも。はう。
I felt utterly shattered, and I still hadn't picked myself back up this morning. And for precisely that reason, Rena's smile was a sight for sore eyes.
Yo, Kei-chan ni Rena. Ohayo.
あれれ、みーちゃんもなんだか寝不足な感じだよ。
Yeah, she had her own stuff going on last night. Mion had gone home early yesterday with a hangover, but she didn't look too good this morning either. Her usual cheerfulness was completely buried in shadow.
寝たの3時ぐらいだからね。眠い。
3時？昨日に続いてか？おいおい、夜更かしにも限度ってもんがあるぞ。大方漫画の単行本が面白くなっちゃって1巻から読破してしまったんだろ。俺にも経験があるぞ。
Yeah, I think that's more of a you problem here, Keiichi. I joked, trying to shake off my sleepiness. I was trying to be considerate. However, neither Mio nor Rena smiled. In fact, they didn't even pay attention. Well, so much for that. Rena's expression immediately darkened.
あれ？ひょっとして村長さんのこと？まだ見つかってないの？
おい、ちょっと待ってくれ。
Yeah, Keiichi's out of the loop here.
村長さんが見つかってないって何の話だ？
Even the classroom, which was normally bursting with bright, joking voices, seemed filled with a different sort of murmur today.
おはようございます、ケイイチさん。聞きました？なんだか大変なことになりましたわね。
俺はその村長さんって人をよく知らないんだが、ジジイなんだろ？ボケて徘徊してるだけじゃないのか？
村長さんはボケてなんかいませんですわ。お習字も教えるし、剣道も教える、はつらつな方でございますの。
Those are two very different things. I like them.
僕と同じで、きっとどこかで迷子なのですよ。迷子いいね。はう、お持ち帰り。
Okay, it's probably not time for that. Getting lost is only cute because children like Rika-chan do it. A worn-out old man getting lost isn't moe in the slightest. While my mind entertained dumb thoughts like that, our teacher arrived. Everyone rushed to their seats. And then a normal day of school occurred, right?
皆さん、おはようございます。
Good morning. The class greeting was normal, but the atmosphere in the room was heavy.
すでに聞いている方もいるかもしれませんが、昨日の夜、村長さんが夜遅くになってもお家に帰ってこなかったのだそうです。皆さんの中で昨日村長さんを見た人はいますか？
One or two hands went up in silence, and they told her about having seen him. None of it seemed to be vital information, however, and everyone began whispering amongst themselves.
もしも村長さんを見かけた人は大人の人に教えてあげてくださいね。それでは授業を始めます。
After that, the same old lessons began. I don't know, could he have gotten demoned away? Could he have been one of the ones that had to disappear? Which really wouldn't make a lot of sense because he is I guess it doesn't matter if he's a big figure or not, he's from one of the three families. And people are really going to, band together and make him quote-unquote disappear? The rumors, once quieted, blossomed in flowers again at lunchtime. I could hear a few different conversations. They were mostly related to the mayor's disappearance. Summing them all up, I came out with this. Yesterday evening, the mayor went to a meeting at the Shrine's Assembly Hall. The meeting ended after the sun had fully set and everyone left. The elder's house was a bit far from the center of Hinamizawa. It was already late and Hinamizawa doesn't have a lot of lights outside. Nobody saw the mayor after the meeting. However, because he would have been hungry, he wouldn't have taken any side trips. He would have gone straight home. However, no matter how long his family waited, he never returned. Which is why, houses were getting called and people were asking if the mayor had been around. Some thought there might have been an accident. They left no stone unturned. They searched for from the irrigation channels to the water wells and even the rice paddies, but they didn't find him. Of course, there was a limit to how far they could search in the middle of the night. The police were going to wait for daylight and then have the young men of the town help search. If after all that they still didn't find him, they were apparently even going to go looking in the mountains. Even now, at this moment, the adults were probably all searching for him. The more they searched in vain, and the more time that passed, the only thing that came to mind was the curse. The rumors of Onikakushi, of the demoning away. Had he become this year's sacrifice to Oyashiro-sama's curse, which had recently been occurring every year? That scary possibility, which everybody thought about, but nobody could say aloud, was slowly but surely spreading throughout the village. Was he demoned away and offered as a sacrifice to quell Oyashiro-sama's anger? My classmates were whispering to each other that the curse didn't happen this year, so there shouldn't have been any sacrifices. I, on the other hand, I knew. The curse did happen again this year, and there were 2 people that died. This may sound strange, but I hadn't exactly thought the elder would be the one to go missing. My reason was clear. Shion and I have been a higher priority than him. The 4 of us were thieves that broke the taboo and set foot into the sacred ritual storehouse. I wouldn't say we were thieves, though. We didn't steal anything. If Tomitake-san and Takano-san had suffered mysterious deaths, then it should have been my and Shion's turn next.
今度こそ俺かシオンの番なのにな。
I laughed painfully to myself. I'd yelled at Shion over the phone that I didn't want to end up in such a terrifying situation, but now that someone other than me had disappeared, I can only think that I should have been the first to go. Onegafuchi, the bottomless swamp, said to have been the place where they drowned sacrifices long ago. Just as I ran through my thoughts, the villagers must have also considered the swamp. Maybe police divers were plumbing its depths even now. They probably wouldn't find anyone. Not a single person or a single missing person had ever been found. They'd always suspected Onigafuchi, but not once have they ever turned up a corpse from it. After all, it was a devilish, bottomless swamp from which no one who sinks can ever return. I could hear someone telling their friend that in the classroom.
そういえば、サトシさんがいなくなったのも去年の今頃だったね。
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was getting a drink, but yeah. Satoshi, he was in this classroom. And come on, Keiichi, we've heard that name before. Satoshi. I've heard that name before. There we go. He was right. He disappeared because of last year's curse. The conversation was happening in the seat next to me, so I could hear it clearly.
サトシさんの時も確かこんな風に村中で探したんじゃなかったっけ？
あれも見つからなかったんだよね。
Uh-oh.
あれって結局どうなったんだっけ？確か鬼隠しじゃなかったんだよね。
うん。貯金を全部下ろして家出しちゃったんだって聞いたよ。警察の人が名古屋駅で新幹線に乗るところを見た人がいるとか言ってたもん。
Ran away, huh? I wasn't that interested in the reason, which seemed understandable in this case. Everyone else who disappeared had their own reasons too. Either they were still on the run because they were criminals, or they were a corpse that couldn't be found. It's not like any of them suddenly disappeared into thin air for no reason. But they disappeared. Yeah, that's the big point. Someone disappeared whenever the curse took a life, as if by design. They may have had various understandable reasons, but they still disappeared. From that point of view, it really might have been a demoning away this time. The mayor's disappearance was the first such incident without a clear reason behind it. Of course, coming to that realization didn't help to resolve anything.
今日は味の加減を間違えちゃったみたいだね。ごめん。
Normally, Rena's lunch would have been devoured immediately, but today there was still a ton left. That wasn't because Rena's lunch didn't taste good or anything, though.
そんなことありませんのよ。レナさんのお弁当は今日もとっても美味でしたよ。
There's just a lot going on. Sadako dips her chopsticks into Rena's bento box and pulls bits of food out one after the other.
美味しい。今日も格別でしたよ。あれ、それかぼちゃのコロッケだよ。大丈夫？レナさんのかぼちゃならとっても美味しいですわ。
Did Sadako dislike pumpkin? Regardless, she forced herself to smile and shoved more into her mouth. Excuse me. Everyone knew. Nobody's lunch tasted very good today. Sadako kept shoveling it down, repeating her remark on how good it was.
そんなにうまいなら俺もいただかないとな。このままじゃ全部サトコに食われちまう。
あんまりにも美味しいので、ぜひケイイチさんにも召し上がってほしいですわね。
たまには俺も年上らしい寛大さを見せないとな。よし、遠慮するな。今日は俺の分まで食ってよし。
うわー。
She really hated pumpkin, didn't she? That made it all the more touching to see Sadako's own brand of generosity. I grabbed her head and started stroking it. Sadako, in a somewhat exaggerated fashion, was bawling, tears streaming down her face.
嘘だよ。そんなにうまいものを譲るほど大人にはなれないよ。レナも食え。俺のは夕べのおでんの残り物だが、おでんは一晩経ってからがうまいんだぜ。
お大根が綺麗な色に透き通ってて美味しそう。じゃあ、いただこうかな。
Rena reached out with her chopsticks, and at last the usual lunchtime atmosphere, began to return. And that was only at our desks, however. The dark tales of Yashiro-sama's curse, which had recurred for 5 years in a row, didn't cease. The whole classroom remained stuck in this somber mood. It's very interesting. Chapter 1, we were in this, state of distrust with our friends. And it was really hard to have any sort of sense of normalcy with them, and we were just on edge with our friends, and here we're really not, and I like that. Sure, we're on edge about something else, but it's refreshing. Oyashiro-sama's curse had happened for 5 years straight. Everyone had wanted the previous year to be the last. What was Oyashiro-sama's curse anyway? They were going to build a dam in Hinamizawa. The people building it were bad, so they were cursed. I would admit that much. Still, the dam project was frozen years ago, wasn't it? So why was the curse stubbornly persisting? I hit myself on the cheeks to perk myself back up. Everyone was trying so hard to brighten the mood. I couldn't go straight back to thinking about the curse like that. I forced the grim story out of my head. Driving Oyashiro-sama's curse out of my thoughts was actually a good idea. In the end, that meant I would also be driving away the most terrifying thought of all, and that I could be the curse's next target. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen, though.
しかし、ミオンは遅いな。あいつのお手洗いってこんなに長いのか?
Mion had said that she was going to wash her hands and left, and she hadn't come back yet.
多分どっかでお昼寝してるんだと思う。
That does sound like
昨夜
her.
はきっと遅くまで村長さんを探すお手伝いをしてたんだと思うから。
I smiled wryly and let out a sigh, excuse me. Today was just no good. However much we tried to lighten the mood, things always came back to the mayor. It was just a no good day. I just transferred here recently, so the shock of a curse happening 5 years running was an unimaginably big one. Maybe I do need to appreciate that.
村長さんはね、ちっちゃかった頃、みーちゃんのことをすごく可愛がってくれたんだって。いたずら盛りのみーちゃんをすごく可愛がってくれたって、よく話してたな。
I see. Mion was in shock too. Someone disappearing at all because of a curse was a very scary thing. If the sacrifice was someone you knew, though, then the shock must be 100 times worse. Sadako, as if she'd come to the same conclusion, bit her lower lip and looked downward.
そういえば、リカちゃんも遅いな。ひょっとして、リカちゃんも仲良くお昼寝か?
リカはそんなに遅くまではお付き合いしませんでしたわ。リカがあくびをしたら、皆さんみんなしておやすみなさいませ、おやすみなさいませって。
Now that she mentioned it, there were a lot of old people rubbing their prayer beads in fervent gratitude towards Rika-chan during the festival, too. An image of the indulgent elderly came to mind. Had Rika-chan discovered a way to get herself to be pampered like that?
リカちゃんって、何気に年寄りのアイドルだな。理想の孫娘像ってやつなのか?
そんなの知らない。でも、リカちゃんのあくびなら見てみたい。きっとね、ふわーって。お持ち帰り。そんなに可愛いとも思いませんけど。ふわーって、喉の奥まで覗けるくらいの大あくびでしたよ。リカちゃんの大あくび。
Rena's handy at times like these. I finally managed a heartfelt laugh. Oh, right. I'm on day duty today, aren't I? I need to go water the flower garden. The garden is right outside the teacher's lounge, too, so they can immediately tell if you don't do it right.
リカちゃんのだけじゃなく、さとこちゃんのも可愛いと思うわ。大あくび。窒息。
Rena was strangling Sadako. I don't think that counts as yawning. You know, Rena is... I can't say it out loud, but she's a notorious... Oh no. What is she? I don't know what is censored there. Why is that censored? How can I uncensor what is censored here? Please let me know. Hearing Sadako make a weird noise like a chicken being strangled was kind of hilarious, and I couldn't help but laugh. At some point, the classroom had erupted into laughter too. Maybe Rena was doing it on purpose. Even if she wasn't, this nonsense was a welcome sight. Anyway, let's get over to the flowers while I still have some time. Slowly and quietly, lest I destroy the room's newfound peace, I left the classroom. The watering can was hanging up outside the kitchen. This building had originally been an all-male Forestry Service building, so there was apparently nothing so thoughtful as a garden here before. When they decided to have a school share the space, they built one there as a modest gesture of appreciation. But, well, the flower bed, it was a little longer than you'd expect. It went all around. It went all over the place. It was so big, one would need to refill the watering can 5 or 6 times to get it all done. I was doing this together with a kid who was also, thankfully, on day duty today. She was in the lowest grade though, and a full size smaller than even Rika-chan. I couldn't make a kid who would struggle just to lift the watering can or the full watering can help me with this. If you were placed on day duty with someone who liked this sort of thing, they'd do it all for you, so it'd be cake.
悪態をついても仕方ないな。諦めて仕事を始めるか。
Watering can in hand, just as I was about to leave the building, the old man from the forestry office addressed me.
兄ちゃん、倉庫裏に菜園があるだろ。だいぶくたびれかけたぞ。あそこにも水をやってあげな。
ああ、カレー菜園ですか。じゃがいもとか人参とか、カレーの具しか栽培してないっていう。
It's definitely the personal garden of our curry-loving teacher, but making students responsible for its upkeep is getting them involved in her personal affairs. I couldn't say that to his face though, so I gave up and decided to carry out my day duties. The sunlight out front was strong. The great chorus of cicadas was strongly underlining how nothing was different today than yesterday. I passed by the classroom, and I don't know how it happened, but Rena and Sadako were in the middle of a huge melee. While I was gone, the kids had arranged all desks in a circle, forming a ring while everyone was cheering them on. Yeah, that's how it should be. Once school ended, we would need to return to reality, where talk of the elders' disappearance would once again be all over the place. I wanted everyone to forget about everything and have fun, just like yesterday, if only while they were at school. In that sense, Sadako's whirling elbow and Rena's backwards flying spin kick made for a pleasant sight. Even if, as a result, they flipped over my desk, well, that's great. That's my pencil box, even worse. I'll just let it happen today. We got some watering to get to. I set to work, hastily watering everything, wanting nothing more than to be done as soon as possible. That should about do it. No sooner had I thought that than I remembered that I had to water the teacher's curry vegetable garden too.
めんどくさいが、やらないと後で色々と不利益なことがありそうな気がする。
Yeah, we gotta build up that good karma. I gave up, filled the can with water again, and headed behind the warehouse. This was a place students didn't like to go. It was always damp here, and you couldn't discard the possibility of slugs and pillbugs being around. So when I ran across her in a place like that, I was surprised.
Rika-chanか。驚かせるなよ。
Rika-chan was just standing there like a puppet, devoid of life. I was the only one who was startled here. Rika-chan didn't even seem to react to my appearance.
Rika-chan?
Finally, she noticed me. Oh, okay. Her expression was clearly abnormal. There was red under her eyes, stained with tears and dirt. There were blades of grass stuck to her hair too, and her clothes looked as though she'd fallen to the ground.
Rika-chan! ひょっとして怪我したのか？転んだとか？
違うのですよ。違うのです。
Rika-chan said in the brightest voice she could manage as she rubbed her eyes. She didn't look anywhere near normal though.
何があったんだ？まさか倉庫の屋根の上で昼寝とかしてて落ちたとか？
僕のことはいいのです。それよりも、圭一に聞きたいことがあるのです。
Wait, no, I'm still concerned about her. Rika-chan walked over and clung to me. At first I thought she was playing a trick on me. Eventually, however, I realized it was so that I wouldn't run from the question she was about to ask. And I shuddered. Oh no, it's gonna be the same shit.
俺に、なんだよ。
She looked straight into my eyes. Her upturned eyes bored right into me. It was as though they were trying to pull the answer out of my own eyes, without actually asking me the question. It was scary, so I averted my eyes from hers.
圭一、
Oh no.
お祭りの晩に何か悪いことをしましたか？
My body gave a jolt from its very core. Rika-chan, who was clinging to me, might have felt my shiver. A nervous tingle crawled up from my feet, and after going up my back and freezing my entire body, it made its way into my brain.
圭一、本当に覚えはありませんか？
My head began to throb. I don't understand anything. Mion asked me. Ueshi-san asked me. Shion asked me. And now Rika-chan was asking me. We thought nobody knew about what we did last night, but in fact everyone knew. They all knew and they came to ask me. Again and again until I admitted it. When I thought about it, it was pretty clear the whole thing was out in the open. After all, don't Tomatake-san and Takano-san's deaths prove it?
圭一、
How should I respond? We never should have entered the Forbidden Storehouse, and even though I regretted it so much, was she saying it wasn't enough? However, I had all but decided what I was going to say.
俺もそこが悪いからな。
Oh yeah, let's start out with that.
悪いことの覚えが多すぎて見当がつかないよ。
Just as I had with all the others, I evaded the question. Rika-chan stared up at me with innocent eyes. Her eyes were so painful that I had to look away. After a few moments of mutual silence, Rika-chan released me.
変なことを聞いてごめんなさいなのです。忘れてくださいなのですよ。
I don't think I can forget about that. She said, smiling her usual smile. And then she went running off, as if nothing had happened. As she retreated in silence, I could feel her accusing me.
リカちゃん。
If she didn't hear my voice, then I was going to give up. However, she heard it. Rika-chan swiveled around and waited for me to continue. I was the one who had questions now. Still asking any of them could just be a half-assed way of admitting what I did.
なあ、リカちゃん。
はいなのです。
If everyone knows anyway, then I should be able to at least ask this, right? Why is everyone asking me about the night of the festival? That evening. Had I done something that wrong? I felt plenty sorry about it, and I only looked anyway. I didn't break anything or steal anything. Really. Still, Tomatake-san and Takano-san, they died so miserably. Since those two had come to such an end, there's obviously no way it would forgive only me. Rika-chan cutely tilted her head in confusion and waited for me to say something. If I were to admit what happened that night, though, she might suddenly do a 180, as if flipping a switch. That would make sense. Rika-chan was the Shrine Maiden. She was the least likely to forgive me for breaking the taboo, wasn't she? Upon reflection, wouldn't telling her be more terrifying than telling Mion or Ueshi-san? Rika-chan could just give up and leave, couldn't she? She didn't. She only was quietly waiting for me to say it myself. Say it, Keiichi Maibara. If you really are sorry, then you should say so. Of course, it's normal to hesitate, given the crazy way that Tomatake-san and Takano-san died. A pulping machine called Chaos was grinding up my brain. The juice wrung out of it turned into big droplets of sweat which began to fall.
圭一、
Rika-chan suddenly straightened up, trying to pat me on the head.
圭一が何を悩んでいるのか、僕にはよくわからないのです。
I had nothing to say to that. I lowered my head a little so that Rika-chan's palm could reach it. She petted me, kind of like one would a cat. There we go.
境内の裏を少し行ったところに大きな倉庫があるのをご存知ですか？
Oh, she's gonna ease it out of us.
西宮殿と言いますです。
My breath literally stopped. Rika-chan, though, wasn't acting in a coercive way at all.
お祭りの晩、その西宮殿に猫さんが入り込んだのだそうです。
猫？
はい、猫さんです。にゃーにゃーなのです。
Rika-chan knew. She realized I was in fear. I could tell that she was desperately trying to choose the right words so that she wouldn't scare me.
猫さんは前から西宮殿の中を探検してみたいと思っていました。でも僕が意地悪をして中を見せてあげなかったのです。なので祭りの夜、猫さんは我慢できなくなって中に入ってみましたのです。
And the curiosity killed it. The cat. It was clearly supposed to be Takano-san. Or wait, was it supposed to be me?
実は中には猫さんが怖がるものがたくさんあったのです。
Rika-chan made a cute gesture like a ghost was coming out to frighten me.
猫さんはびっくり仰天。一目散に逃げ出してガタガタブルブルニャーニャーで大変なのです。
その猫が誰だって言うんだ？
猫さんは猫さんです。にゃーにゃー。
Rika-chan still avoided saying it. The cat, though, was without a doubt me.
リカちゃん、頼む。教えてくれ。その猫さんはこれからどうしたらいい？
Maybe it was a desperate question to ask. I had sort of admitted to being the cat.
猫さんは猫さんですから、にゃーにゃー泣いてるだけで大丈夫ですよ。
Huh?
大丈夫って、そんないい加減な。
にゃーにゃー泣いてるだけではダメなのですか？
Jeez, Rika-chan and I have put together an entire conversation using cat as a code word. I didn't say it directly, but I had already admitted it. I didn't want to end up like those two. I didn't want to be a sacrifice like Shion said. And that's what I thought, so I stubbornly remained silent. But now that's enough.
泣いてるだけじゃダメなんだ。猫さんがいたずら心で忍び込んだのを。
犬さん。
そうだ、犬さんなんだ。猫さんのところへ代わる代わるやってきて、忍び込んだだろうって問いただしてくるんだ。
After I said that, Rika-chan's expression clouded over. She was trying to hide it, but I already noticed her eyes darkening.
リカちゃん。
The silence was frightening, so I spurred her on. At that point, Rika-chan grinned.
大丈夫ですよ。猫さんは僕が守ってあげます。
Huh? I thought for a moment that I had misheard those words. So dependable they were.
猫さんはとても怖がっていますが、本当はそんなに大変なことではないのです。何匹かの犬さんがきっと勘違いしてるだけなのだと思います。
そんなに大変なことじゃないって。
猫さんの心配しすぎなのです。僕がきっと何とかしてあげますですよ。
Rika-chan will do something about it? I don't even know left from right at the moment, so Rika-chan didn't look all that dependable.
ちょっと大変ですけど、頑張りますですよ。ファイト、オーなのです。
She clenched her fist and stuck it in the air. Rika-chan said that the cat can just keep meowing. She said to leave it all to her. Is that really all it took to resolve this whole thing?
本当にリカちゃんで大丈夫なのか？
僕が頑張らないと、犬さんも大変なことになってしまうかもしれないのです。
I had no idea what Rika-chan was talking about anymore. She had been talking to me under the assumption that I was aware of certain things. So at first I understood her. Around the middle, though, I stopped understanding anything. However, one thing I did know was to not worry and to leave it to her. Rika-chan straightened up once again, patted me on the head and smiled. I was so moved by that reassuring feeling that I couldn't help but start to cry.
ごめん。猫さんも本当にちょっとしたいたずらのつもりだったんだ。こんなことになるなんて全然。
猫さんは臆病すぎです。だから見せたくなかったのです。
She was right. It was far too shocking for someone to see based on a little bit of interest alone. And that's why they made it so difficult to look in the first place, wasn't it?
リカちゃん、その猫さんはどうなるんだろう。忍び込んだ2匹の猫さんが、あの晩に。
I'd heard Tomitake-san and Takano-san's deaths were being kept a secret. Rika-chan might not have known about it.
富武と高野ですか？
Uh-oh. I gave a start at the sudden mention of actual names. Though it's weird to do that at this point.
忘れると良いのです。
Haha, my spine froze again.
忘れる？
はい。あの二人のことを思い出すことは、圭一にとって良くないことなのです。
I mean, it's true.
考えれば考えるほど怖くなるだけです。だから早く忘れた方がいいのです。
She said something so enormously terrifying without letting the smile on her face waver at all.
どこで聞いたかわかりませんが、きれいさっぱりお風呂でゴシゴシするみたいに忘れちゃうと良いのですよ。
忘れるって言ったって、リカちゃんは知ってるんだろう。あの二人がどういう死に方を。
どんな死に方をしても、それは圭一とは関係のないことなのです。
Rika declared this in a flat voice. Nothing to do with me. So forget about it. The girl before me, she was innocent and lovable, and even seemed trustworthy. But suddenly she took on another dimension. Don't get involved with their deaths. I'll help you, Keiichi. Those two contradictory statements twisted and distorted my image of the girl in front of me.
シオンはあいつはどうなるんだ？
It might have been dangerous to mention Shion's name, but I couldn't stop myself from asking. Rika-chan saw through everything anyway, and there was no way I was going to fool her or keep anything from her at this point.
姉妹猫の妹ですか？にゃーにゃー。
そうだ。妹猫だ。
Rika-chan appeared to think upon this for a moment. It was hard for me to endure even this momentary silence.
姉猫は怒ってます。妹猫が悪いことをしたので、とても怒ってます。
姉猫って？
Mion. That can only mean Mion. I recall being questioned by her yesterday.
圭一、姉猫はとても機嫌が悪いです。しばらくの間、そっとしてあげてほしいなのです。
Not in a good mood. Those words sent a shiver through me. Mion was mad, and she was mad that we entered the ritual storehouse.
今日から部活はなしにしましょう。
なんでだよ。
そっとしてあげてほしいからなのです。
Rika-chan ended her sentence with such force that I couldn't say anything in response. Hey, Keiichi Maibara, don't disobey Rika-chan right now. She's the only one who said she'll help me right now. I'll leave things to her, just as she said to. I mean, she even said that the cat should just keep meowing. I'll forget everything. Like she said. I'll leave everything to her. I'll forget everything. About Takano-san and Tomitake-san and what I did that night. Oh, time to go back to class. Just then we heard a bell far away, marking the end of our lunch break.
じゃあ校舎に戻ろうか。
圭一、
As if she had noticed how miserable I was, about to leave everything to her and flee the scene, Rika-chan called out to stop me.
勘違いの犬さんが猫さんに噛みつこうとしたら知らせてくださいね。
The misunderstanding dog, Uushi-san. She put it in such a cute-sounding way, but the true meaning behind those words was an eerie one.
勘違いの犬さんってなんだ？
村長を噛んだ犬さんです。
Oh.
どうして村長を噛んだのか、僕にはわかりません。
Haha.
噛むなら、いたずら猫さんを先に噛むはずなのにです。
The flow of blood in my body felt like it completely stopped for a moment. Rika-chan had admitted it. The sacrifices of that terrible calamity. She admitted that if they were to happen again, it would be Shion, or I, so the dog is Oyashiro-sama, or those standing in for the curse. I didn't know what was true about the girl standing before me. My suspicion gave way to fear and nearly began to change into anger. Was she a savior who would protect me? Or a stranger trying to capture and kill me for the sake of a horrible tradition? I had no idea what was true.
ごめんなさいなのです。猫さんが怖がっているのに、また怖がるようなことを言ってしまいました。ごめんなさいなのです。
Rika-chan bowed so quickly it looked like her head had been pulled downward. Still, she was right, I was cowering. I could distinctly feel my body shaking violently. So when Rika-chan reached her hand over to pat me on the head, I pulled away without thinking.
ごめん。
Rika-chan made a very sad face, but I just couldn't bring myself to put out my head for her again. Wow. Wasn't really expecting that event. And that day, Rika-chan said that she wasn't feeling up for club activities, so she suggested we don't bother. There's always vetoes when someone doesn't feel up to it. Rena and the others seemed really disappointed. The big sister cat is not in a good mood. I remembered Rika-chan's words and quietly stole a glance at Mion's expression. If I could forget the way she questioned me yesterday, though, her behavior was the same as it always was. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting with my with what I wanted to do or what I was thinking about in the last episode. It kind of came into existence here, not towards Mion, but Rika-chan instead. I guess it is true though. People fucking know what's going on. So, you know, what's the point at this point? Do we admit it or do we just, you know, keep on living our life and rely on Rika? I don't know. I really don't. It's a tricky situation. We will end the episode here, and I guess we'll just have to, see what happens next time. Shit, man. Things really are getting good, though. They is. I have not been spooked yet, or at least I don't think I've been. But I feel like the time is coming. I just don't know when. Thank you all for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. Excuse me. Damn, I cannot talk. Yeah, I guess that's it. I got nothing else to say. I'm just really excited for what's to come. Not excited to be spooked, but excited for what's to come. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.